For this show, we could start at many different angles, but there's one that I'm going to jump right to because there's a lot of other stuff we could talk about. But how much Twitter jail do people deserve for when they get a little too excited about Kay Adams online?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, people love her. I get it. I do get it. Don't get me wrong, I get it. You don't have to thirst fall. I mean, thirst quote her every time she posts anything or does anything. But I understand it. And I think her having worked in this market before, right, covering the Patriots when she was with NBC Sports Boston, I think that kind of endeared a lot of people to her. So I think it's just more prevalent on like our timelines because we follow the team that it's just like, oh, y'all are being a little creepy about Kay Adams. Okay. Meanwhile, I didn't find out who she was until what was it?
Good morning,
Was
football.
it no before? What was the football AM or AM football or whatever it was called before Good Morning Football?
Yes, yes,
When she did
yes.
the show with Rhett something or other.
Brett Lewis.
Yeah, who was still on the NFL Network as far as I know.
Yep.
And that was my first exposure to her. But I mean, people like really ride for her. They deserve a lot of Twitter jail though, because some guys are just like super creepy.
I just loved your tweet about it, where it was like, "My guy, we share the vision, but we could see you."
Exactly, exactly. Oh my goodness.
Oh yes, but anyway, guys, it's a wonderful time of the year. Schedule came out yesterday, but we obviously haven't seen McGarvin since before the NFL draft. So instead of going through pick by pick, I guess got to ask you, how do you feel coming out about the draft when it comes to the Patriots?
I think the Patriots did exactly what they were supposed to do.
Yep.
There are some picks that people are gonna quibble with, but I think it was the right kind of draft for a team that is very clearly beginning a rebuild, and a rebuild that'll probably last a couple years. I've always been of the thought that most rebuilds last about 3 years. Right
Yep.
after 3 years, it's probably time to reload. You're either ready to compete or you're not, and your rebuild failed. So like with you think about the Matt Jones pick, right? So that was 2021.
Yes.
He played 21, 22, and 23, and then they moved on from him after that because like, all right, we're in that 3 year windows up. It's now time to talk about the fifth year option. We're like looking into long-term extensions, and if your guy isn't the right guy, it's time to restart. So I always think of rebuilds in terms of quarterback years, right?
Yep.
The how much time you get on their rookie contract. And I think very clearly by that metric, the Patriots are starting a rebuild that's going to take about 3 years. And so they made picks that kind of, you know, reflect that. They took some guys who may not necessarily be ready to play like right now, although I think some of them will be able to. Like the receivers, I think will have to come in and play immediately. But you think of someone like Jaheim Bell, I don't really think he's someone who's going to contribute this year, right? He'll probably make a case for being the second tight end behind Hunter Henry because I don't think that room is particularly deep. I'm not a big Austin Hooper kind of guy, but I think you kind of take these building block players, right? You set the foundation and you build on top of that. So I know a lot of people wanted some more flashy or high brand recognition, I guess. Like some
Mm-hmm.
guys that who are like name brands are like, oh yeah, we wanted this guy because like he's like a flashy player. And I think the Patriots just kind of went out there and were like, hey, we're just gonna get better like all around, just kind of get good, period. So you think of their second round pick, Jalen Polk. I'm I guess lukewarm on it. I think he's a fine player. I think he's more Kendrick Bourne than anything else. So people are going to have opinions on that because they wanted a real wide receiver one. We wanted a big, fast outside guy who can go downfield and
They
moss
were all
dudes and
gone
all
day
that.
one.
Yeah, and it's just like, yeah, and they were. I guess you can argue Adonna Mitchell was that guy, but that's the culture receiver. A lot of the reporting around his slide out of the first round because some people had him at the back half of the first round. I certainly thought he would have, gone earlier than he did. A lot of the reporting around that makes it feel like it wasn't an accident that he fell, and NFL teams just weren't as bullish on him as
Everyone was.
everyone else was. So you know, like you said though, most of the big fast outside guys were already gone by the end of day one. So you go out, you get yourself a good player, and you kind of just raise the floor of the room, right? We always talk about floor ceiling. Everyone's like, oh, this guy's a high ceiling, and no one ever really talks about what that means. But when you talk about a guy who has a quote unquote high floor like Jalen Polk, he's someone who's just going to come in and just be like
Good
good,
guy.
right? Like, yeah, he's like good, right? And it's not, and I mean that in not a derogatory way, but like he's got someone who's going to come in. He's going to give you about, he can give you like 700 yards a year, 6, 7 touchdowns. He's probably going to be pretty good, chain mover kind of guy. Going to be someone who evolves into a fan favorite, but not necessarily someone who, you're going to be lobbying every year that he should be all pro or he should be Pro Bowl or whatever. He's just kind of a good player. And I think the Patriots wide receiver situation in particular just kind of had a lack of good players, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking at a guy like Jalen Polk and you're like, hey, he can give us 700, 800 yards a year, and everyone's like, that's underwhelming. I'm like, yeah, but like think about the other guys on the roster. The only other guy who has hit that number in their careers, 800 or more, Kendrick Bourne one time, and then Juju Smith-Schuster, right? And everyone wants him off the team. So
Yeah.
you kind of got to just raise the floor, because otherwise you're looking at guys like Jalen Reagor. You're hoping that the degenerate gambler can kind of get it together and get on the field. Tyquan Thornton is just really fast and doesn't really do much else, and he still needs a ton of work and entering his third year. That's not looking too great. It's just like not a lot. I think Pop Douglas can be a guy that can give you a lot, but they just kind of needed better players, right? They just needed better guys to be on the field, and they did that when they went out and got Jalen Polk. They did that when they went out and got Javon Baker, who I think will probably be pretty good anyway. So I just think getting the kind of guys who will just be better, just right off for pay. If this is our worst player, we're doing all right. And I think they did the same kind of thing on the offensive line. You look at Caden Wallace, and everyone's like, oh, that's a reach. Oh, he's not that good, or oh, he needs a lot of work. And I'm kind of just of the opinion, like, sure, I agree. I think he does need a lot of work, or it's not, maybe not a lot, but he does need a good bit of work. And I think, but like, who are the alternatives? Connor McDermott's not here, and he was 32 years old. You have Calvin Anderson, who battled malaria, right, and played like 2.5 games last year. It was insane. But these are the guys that you're like, hey, you don't take Caden Wallace. He's not that good. And I'm like, yeah, but the guys you have aren't that good, right? Might as well get a guy with the potential upside to make it happen. Same kind of thing with Layden Robinson, the rookie guard out of Texas A&M. They took him, and everyone's like, oh, well, why you have so many other interior offensive linemen? And I'm like, yeah, but have you watched Antonio Mafi play? He bites, like he's still a little bit away. Same kind of thing with Jake Andrews. Everyone's like, well, you have him, you drafted him, and what are you going to do with him? I'm like, did you watch him play? He still kind of needs work. So it's just about raising the talent level on the team. If we want to avoid using the floor ceiling comparison, just adding talent to the team, a team that everyone's like, hey, there is no talent. So if you're like, there's no talent on this team, and they go out and add talent, I just don't really understand how you can be mad at that. Maybe the names you can quibble with, you wanted, this guy versus that guy, but at the end of the day, they went out there. We're in year one of a rebuild. I don't think the team's going to be particularly good this year. So why not just raise the talent of your, you're not going to rebuild an offense in one offseason. That literally never happens. So
look, everyone, and then here's the thing too. I feel like, so a couple of things. One, it's like the alternatives aren't any better. Like, do you really want to see Viridian Lowe get snaps again? Absolutely not.
Jesus Christ, you were, I blocked them out of my mind, but yeah, you're so right.
I feel like so many fans Men in Black memory wipe themselves from last year, where they don't remember exactly who was on the team and why they were so bad. But it's just like, hey, you could have that. And also with Jalen Polk, I'm going to give a terrific example. Obviously, you're from Massachusetts, state with great pizza, but it's like comparing like, oh, hey, you wanted like from an authentic Italian place. Oh, hey, congratulations, you're getting Domino's. It may not do the trick, or it will do the trick, but it's not going to be quality 5-star food that you're getting. You know what I mean? So it's like that. And then even going back to the guard play, it's like, okay, hey, the alternatives were a lot worse than what they had. So just kind of take it with a grain of salt. And I feel like too that NFL fans have such a short-term memory, because look at how everyone, like, look at Houston, where everyone's like, oh, you just got to get a quarterback and you're good to go. Oh, like even Kansas City, it's like, oh, you just got to get the quarterback. With Kansas City, it was, hey, the team around them were ready, but they realized, hey, we're not going to get anywhere with Alex Smith. We like this kid out of Texas Tech, and now you've won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. So, it's just one of those things. And now the Houston example comes into play, but then I feel like everyone forgets, oh, hey, yeah, this team was downright terrible in 2020, 2021, and 2022. So now with the Patriots, they had to reset the clock. Last year was terrible. Burn it with fire, to where now this year, they have a chance to be that team where it's like, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but it's more that why not us mentality. It's that mentality of, hey, as they could win a game, they could lose a game. There's going to be probably a couple games where they just get ran off the field. They get ran off the gym just by see you later, kind of like what Celtics did with the Cavs last night
Mhm.
for 4 of the 5 games. But no, and I've been saying this all along. There's a clear cut vision in place, and if you also look into it, hey, the guys who have re-signed, just the overall vibe and mood around the locker room. Sophie can elaborate that on that more because obviously she's in there a lot more than you and I are. And even the other one too now. Hey, guess what? You just re-signed a cornerstone defensive tackle that doesn't grow on a tree to a very nice contract. Shout out Nicole Lynn, one of the best agents in the NFL.
Mhm.
To where now, look, you have the building blocks in place. You have a plan. There's a plan of attack. Oh, and guess what? For all the fans, they didn't get a flashy receiver. Guess who is the team with the number 1 cap space for 2025 with a lot of wide receiver free agents available? I'm just saying, next year you can throw a bag at Brandon Ayuk and not have to give up a damn thing. Because I'll tell you right now, either him or Debo is gone, but I feel like it's more likely that Ayuk's the one who walks because no one, unless Debo has a resurgence year, I don't know if anyone's going to take that contract on. So I'm just basically saying this. I'm going to preach patience. This year, there's going to be a lot of I don't even want to say uncomfortable. There's going to be a lot of games where it's just like it's not fun. It's the whole why are we sitting here for 3 hours? Oh yeah, because we love our team. To where you now know, hey, next year could be the year that they could flirt around and maybe sneak in, or you know what, they have the position to play spoiler this year. Like imagine if they ruin Buffalo's chances winning the AFC East because we don't know what Miami and New York are going to be this year. What if they cost the Chargers from missing the playoffs? Like Chargers have to win Week 17, and Justin Herbert, who I know they won last year, but also I want to say something quite quickly. Can I go on a quick Charger tangent?
Yeah, go for
Did
it.
you
I love a
see
tangent.
their Pop Tart photo video? The Pop Tart
Yeah,
photos.
yeah.
So there's 2 I want to call them out on. The one they did for us when someone quote tweeted saying, "You really let Cam hang 45 on your asses back in 2020." And to do the garbage one when it comes to the Raiders, when that team embarrassed you 63-21 and got your entire staff fired. That wasn't even just like, hey, we got Brandon Staley fired. No, I got Tom Telesco fired.
Yeah.
Like Chargers can do like all the good things, but at the same time too, like they had to take their L yesterday. So I just wanted to call them out on that one, just where it's like, oh, I didn't get the Patriot Pop-Tart photo either, but I just saw the photo of Cam where it was just like, this man really hung 45 on you and you didn't do anything. So that's just my thing with the Chargers. And yeah, also, I'll say this right now. For any of you football sickos out there, NFL tweeted great cornerback and receiver matchups, which they put Trayvon Diggs in a lot of those, and him coming off a torn ACL, I don't trust. But Week 15, Christian Gonzalez against Marvin Harrison Jr., that is football porn, folks.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. I didn't really understand the Pop Tart. I know they did the Pop Tart thing a couple years ago, and they brought it back this year because a few teams kind of did that where they're like, oh, this got the Tennessee with the asking the people on Broadway. They did that last year. They kind of brought it back this year, and that's fine. I think it's really weird that we've gotten to this point of football consumption where we're like expecting, oh yeah, the schedule drop is coming. And I always roll my eyes. Like, I don't love the whole rollout of the schedule anyway. Like, just tell me who's playing when and let's move on. We don't need it to be a big, hullabaloo. But it has now become a thing where everyone's like, oh, let's see what all the teams are doing with regards to like showing the schedule. And I'm like, who cares? Like, who cares? But I still watch them because I'm a sicko. But I didn't really understand the Pop-Tart one either. And I don't really care about the Chargers anyway. I think they're a team that just needs to show me. I'm so done talking about them as like, oh, on paper, they're going to be so, yeah, on paper, that's great. But they've been on paper great for 40 years. Like, do something or shut up. But going back to your take of, Patriots potentially playing spoiler, I don't even know necessarily if like that matters. I just think they're going to be a team that's probably below average. They're going to hang around because they have the talent to do so, especially on the defensive side. They're going to play opponents tougher than anyone currently believes, right? Because we're seeing a lot of like, oh, the Patriots are going to win like 3 games, or I posted the whole Patriots play Buffalo. Spoiler alert, 2 out of the last 3 games of the season, and people in the comments would say things like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. At that point, it's not going to matter. Oh, that's the difference between 2 and 3 wins. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm talking about like purely enjoyment. I'm not like going into this year talking about, oh, yeah, this team's going to win a bunch of games. And, oh, man, now I'm upset because, we're going to lose to Buffalo twice and that's going to ruin our season. I'm like, no, I fully expect them to not be super good. I'm just talking about enjoyment. I don't like Buffalo and I don't want to watch them whoop our ass. And then especially that week 18 game. I believe they go, or
It's in New England.
it's in New England. Oh, sick, cool. And that's the game that's a flex. So that'll help because I hate primetime games, and that game is TBD. So there's a chance it's at night. I hate primetime games in Buffalo because I find that their stadium is too fucking dark. Just
Yeah.
like, and I mean that quite literally. I just think there are just not enough lights, so it always looks super dark. They pan to the crowd, and it's dark as crap. And someone pointed out once that they only have 6 lights, and that will never not be funny to me because I'm like, yeah, you kind of need more than 6 lights. I just don't like playing the same team so often, especially because like if they win, like I expect them to, if they win the first matchup, Patriots then play the Chargers,
Yeah.
which can go either way, and then they play
That's
Buffalo
TBD, by
again,
the
and
way,
it's like,
too.
what's that?
That game's a TBD as well.
Oh yeah, see,
Yep.
and I firmly think that's going to be a 1 o'clock game because I don't think either of those teams are going to be pretty good. But if they lose against Buffalo in the first matchup, they beat the Chargers. You then play Buffalo again, and that feeling of excitement is just not there because we just played them. We kind of already know how this is going to go. Don't really love that. I don't love that. But back to the Patriots with regards to how their season is going to go. I just think it'll be the exact kind of season that you should expect from a team that just won 4 games and is in the first year of a new rebuild with a new coach and a rookie quarterback at the helm, who I fully think will be playing by that point. It's not going to be great, and that's just going to be A-okay.
It is. But you know what? For fun right now, I've seen some other people do this. Do we want to dissect to see, just we say week 1, what we think is going to happen? Week 2, go back and
Sure.
forth?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Because I have a crazy take.
Sure.
I think they win week 1.
I don't think that's a crazy take. I think Cincinnati is notorious for starting slow.
Mitch Trubisky
They
beat them
lose
week
games
1
they
2 years
shouldn't.
ago.
I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think that's perfectly valid. People just don't believe in the Patriots enough, and I agree. Like I see why you probably don't think they've shown you enough to believe in them. But I think you also got to take the opponent into account. Right, so a lot of the discourse around the Patriots schedule, right? People breaking down which games will be wins, which will be losses, or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of the discourse around that is surrounded in like, the Patriots aren't very good, and I'm like, yes. However, some of their opponents are also not very good. Like let's be entirely real about it. So people are like, they're only going to win like 2 or 3 games, and I'm like, yeah, they play the NFC West. They can beat that Cardinals team like fairly easily. That's really not a problem. Division games are always weird. You can't just expect that. The Patriots won 4 games last year, and one of them was against Buffalo. Like these things happen. We can't just assume like, the Patriots aren't going to win because they're bad. So that's a game I can see them. I can see them winning as well. I know that the reports are that Joe Burrow will be ready to go, but what does that mean? Like ready to be Joe Burrow or ready to just suit up and play?
I also have another take on it because week 2, the Bengals play the Kansas City Chiefs. So they may already be doing a quick look ahead to where it's like, we got the Patriots this week, but next week we got Patrick Mahomes. So it's like that. And because I can see a world where Kansas City maybe loses week 1 like they did this past season because you're playing a pissed off Buffalo team. So we'll see what happens there. But I can entirely see it. And then everyone's like, holy crap, the Patriots. Like, it's like we doubted the Patriots all offseason. Now look at them. But then they come home for week 2 against Seattle. I'm gonna say this about this game. It's a winnable game, but I think they lose a close one. Like it's a crappy, it's your crappy like 20-17 football game, 17-14. It's
Yeah, as far as like predicting the individual, wins losses, I'd have to see, but I completely agree. I think that's a winnable game. I like Geno Smith now. I used to I used to hate Geno Smith, but I kind of like him. I just don't. There's nothing on that team like just looking at their roster, like even on paper, you're looking at it.
yeah.
There's nothing at it that I'm like, this is gonna be a nightmare. We're gonna get killed because of that guy. There's just not that guy there on offense or defense. I think Devon Witherspoon is a great corner. He was my favorite player last year. I wanted him real bad. I think he's a great corner, but
Yep.
I think having a great corner with a weak pass rush doesn't really do much. They cut their entire safety core. I know Kobe Bryant might be playing safety for them. He had been playing slot for them last year, so he could be playing safety this year. I don't know. There's nothing about that team that like makes me think, oh man, this is an L. Go ahead and stamp it. Not going to happen. That's another game that I think they could probably make it happen.
They're going to be a Big Ten West football team. They're going to win some games, but they're not going to do anything that like makes you go, wow, look at them.
Yeah.
It's like they're the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah, they're gonna win some games because like they are professionals and professionals win games. Like, yeah,
I hate to do this, but I can see them losing that New York Jet game because the entire week it's the Jets home opener. It's Aaron Rodgers' first game of MetLife since the Achilles pop. It's pop and circumstance. It's prime time. Like I would love to see the Patriots win this game, but I think they take their first MetLife loss in almost 10 years.
agree. I just think they're a better team right now. I mean, again, on paper, I think they're a better team right now. It really just depends on how Aaron Rodgers, bounces back from the Achilles injury. Because I know he's Aaron Rodgers. I know the accolades. I know the resume. No one has to
All
tell me the
Hall of
resume.
Famer,
I
all this
know
and
it.
that.
I get it. I get it. I get it. But an Achilles is an Achilles, and that is a 40-year-old man. Like let's be real about that. And a small aside, I feel the same way about Kirk Cousins. I think he's a much better player than anyone ever gives him any respect for. But an Achilles is an Achilles, and that is a 36-year-old man, 37-year-old man. Like let's pump the brakes. Show me. With the New York Jets, for me, it'll always be show me. Show me first, and I'll believe you. If you don't show me, I'm not just going to take your word for it.
I'll say this: so they did have a big boy draft. I like them getting the lineman out of Penn
Yep.
State. They got Malachi
Olu.
Corley.
Yep.
They had a pretty good draft and pretty good offseason, but they're still putting the pieces together. And then week 4, just you sit there, you hold your breath, you count to 10 at San Francisco. I don't think I need to say anything else. It's just expect the worst, maybe hope for effort. That's a game where it's like a moral victory will actually be okay.
We're on to Miami.
Yeah, literally. We're on to Miami.
On to Miami.
Which same thing. I'm saying that's a loss as well.
Like show me.
Yeah.
Show me with the Dolphins. You gotta show me.
Talk about their fans for a second.
Oh, whoa! What's up with the fan? I haven't really heard much from their fan base.
So it was announced that week 2, the first game on Prime of the year, is going to be Bills at Dolphins, and they think, oh, the league's protecting Josh Allen, which I'll say, I hate how much I like Josh Allen, but how their fan base basically comes out and is saying all this stuff about like, oh, you're taking the one advantage away from us. Josh Allen gets to play at prime time. He doesn't get the 1:00 thing. Basically, Miami fans admitting they use the heat to their advantage. So, guys, the league's not protecting Josh Allen. The league just sees, hey, 2 really good teams to open the year. And if you also look at the entire prime slate, it's a lot of divisional games. I think all but 4 are divisional games this year. Because I bet they looked at them and said, Prime probably looked at the league and said, hey, stop giving us the Colts Broncos. Stop giving us the Panthers and the Bears. Give us some cool divisional games.
Yeah. I think all Thursday games should be divisional anyway. That's been my hot take for 5 years now. I just think it makes more sense than having 2 teams that don't play each other often, or 2 teams that don't know each other super well, having them play. Because then it's like neither team is really doing what they do. I think division matchups on Thursday, peak. With Miami, though, I don't know. I think I understand how good they are. I just don't know if I believe how good they are, right? I think they should be better than they are. And I know Miami Dolphins fans are going to be all up my ass about it. Like, oh, no, you're hating, you're this, you're that. But I don't know, like, how many matchups a year do you see the Dolphins in where you're like, oh, yeah, they're going to blow this team out of the water? Think about it last year. I mean, they were an absolute track team, the big explosive offense, good coordinator, all that. And then they go out there and you're just like, you can lose this. I can see how you can lose this. And you said Oklahoma. I think that's
like
fair.
Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I remember. I just give that example so well because I'll never forget this. It's the 2019 college football playoff. I'm watching about to watch with my parents. My mom looks at me, Oklahoma, LSU, and she's like, "Oh, hey, who's going to win this?" And I'm like, "LSU's going to wipe. LSU's going to wipe the floor." And they put 62 up on them. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson just ran the show. Call me crazy. Week 6 at home versus the Texans. I'm giving that one to New England. I think that's just another game. New England's going to win some weird games where I think, like last year, how they won some that they shouldn't have. I think they're going to do the same thing this year. This is one of those rare, I think they win this game because, it's everyone coming in. Either that or we get cooked by Stephon Diggs and we all have to throw a bitch fit on Twitter. One of the two.
Yeah, I think that's one that I don't know. I my gut tells me that's a Texans win. I don't think that the Patriots have seen the Texans enough. This iteration of the Texans enough. And I don't think that by week we're at 7, week 6 at that point actually. I don't think you'll have enough to like definitively form a game plan. I think CJ Stroud is an ascending player. I think by the end of the year we're going to be talking about him as one of the 6 or 7 best quarterbacks. Yeah, he's an ascending player. I like their defense. I don't know. I think they should win that game, but October is a long way away. A lot can happen because I think with a lot of the schedule stuff in general, we're looking at it now in May. I think even looking at it again in August after training camp has started and we're kind of seeing what the teams are, doesn't do a ton for some of the later games. And I know October, what is it, October 15th or 14th, 13th, isn't that far after August, but weird things happen, right? So you're like, oh yeah, this is what's gonna happen, and then Aaron Rodgers blows his Achilles in week 1. You know what I mean? Or what does it look like if they lose both of their edge rushers? In the weeks leading up to that game. At that point, that defense is toothless. You know what I mean? It's weird things like that. But I would say my gut is Texans win there because I think the Texans are going to be a good team. I don't think they were a fluke. I think they decided, hey, we're going to get better quickly this offseason and went and had added the talent for that. So as long as things don't get weird with injuries, I think the Texans are going to be in it. And I think they'll probably just walk all over us in week 6.
I think that, and I also think too, the Indianapolis Colts are a team to kind of watch out for. I feel like this year, with like last year, they barely missed the playoffs. I think this year with Anthony Richardson, they get another win or two that they lost last year, and they do that +2. Don't have to worry about doing what they did in Germany.
Interestingly enough, I actually have the opposite opinion there. I think the Colts are the fluke. I know they were more competitive last year than anyone expected. But man, I don't really buy that team. I don't love their receiving group. I know that they have AD Mitchell. He's going to be pretty good. I just whelmed. They have Jonathan Taylor, and that's great. I just don't know that line is going to do what they were able to do last year because it felt like they got away with a lot, especially on that O line. So I'm curious, and the defense doesn't move me in any way. So again, with the Colts, I'm like, I don't know, man.
They'll be like a 7-9 win team,
Yeah.
they'll flirt with the playoffs. That's what I mean. I'm not saying they're going to be like, when I say good, I mean, like they'll be that like middle of the pack, they'll be flirting with the playoffs in like late December, and maybe
they'll be in the hunt graphics.
Yeah, the Steve Kornacki in graphics, oh, hey, if they win this game, they have a 75% chance, but if they lose, it goes down to 19%.
See, I like that.
And then at Jacksonville, like, I think it's just because Jacksonville's there the week before, but there's also a sick part of me that thinks Trevor Lawrence is not going to play in this game. Mac Jones will go into this game, beat New England, break me as a human being and a man, and then I have to watch the NFL football for the rest of the day on Red Zone. So that's just that.
That would be stressful. I just don't see that happening. I don't know if I've ever said it on this show before, but the Jags, man, even the year that they made the playoffs and they won against the Chargers, I don't buy the Jaguars. And I don't. That's what it is. I think Trevor Lawrence is an interesting player because I don't think he's a bust. I think that's. I don't even think he's necessarily a disappointment. I just don't think he's that good. I think he's probably one of the 14 or 13 best quarterbacks in the league, and that's pretty good. But people talk about him as like, oh, he's going to be like a franchise guy, and I'm like, I think he's going to be like pretty good, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know about that. I do like Brian Thomas Jr. though, their first round pick. He's awesome. Too. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think if Trevor Lawrence is able to like get him the football, they can do some things. But I don't know. There's something about Jacksonville that I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like,
they're a team.
They're a team of all time.
Yeah,
they certainly play football.
Like they're not a needle mover. It's like basically how you describe Jalen Polk. He's good. It's not saying good in a bad way. It's just like they're good. Like I don't think they're ever going to be like this like elite team where. Look, it's still weird to me to think that they were a Miles Jack like fumble away from going to a Super Bowl not even 10 years ago. Yeah. Imagine we got Nick Foles and Blake Bortles in the Super Bowl. Like
that would have had families. That was man. But the refs blew him down, even though he absolutely was not down. But they blew him down. So I'll take it.
And then Stephon Gilmore too made a beautiful pass breakup on fourth down
against D.D. Westbrook. Yep.
Yes, and then we go to week 8, against the Jets, this is where I think we win at home. Kind of that split. They get us
Sure.
there. We get them there, and
I
then
bet.
they go to Tennessee, which is the same thing too. I'm excited for Tennessee to see like Christian Barmore and J.C. Latham just battle all game, or Peter
Yeah,
Skoronski and Christian
that'll be
Barmore.
fun. Yeah, I
If
think they're that D line is like really low key mad good, and I just don't see enough people talking about that. I know everyone's talking about like all of their additions with regards to like Calvin Ridley. Everyone's like, oh, super excited about that, and they obviously added J.C. Latham. It's like, all right, cool. But I think that defensive line is nasty. I think that
Harold
is.
Landry's underrated.
Yeah, oh my goodness, right? I think that is going to be like a factor. But then, well, obviously we're going to get back to the quarterbacks. Ah, I just I don't see Will Levis in the same light that a lot of people do. I think he's a player that this year is going to be incredibly important for him. Obviously, it's important for all second year players, but I think as far as my perception goes, this year is going to matter a lot because if he plays this year like he played the end of last year, he is going to be someone who is just whelming, right? Like not over, not under. I just not a needle mover. I'm just like, he's fine. So we'll see. We'll see how that looks. I'm so curious about how their running game looks minus Derrick Henry because I think he absolutely carried the load. Obviously carried the load for that offense, and I think that Titans fans or the ones that I've talked to are severely understating how important he was to that offense. They're basically saying, "Hey, you can stick anyone back there, and they'll be just fine. Maybe they won't, rush for 1,800 yards, but they'll be pretty good anyway." And I'm like, "No, I think
No.
I think Derrick Henry carried a lot better than y'all are trying to say." So I don't know, man. I do
Yeah,
like their secondary too, though. I do want to say that I like the Titans secondary, and I know they added L'Jarius Sneed, so that's a good addition there. But I also like Roger McCreary; he's a good player. Caleb Farley, if he ever plays, he's just
if
going
you
to
could
give a
stay
lot.
healthy.
Yeah, a guy never plays, but when he plays, yeah, I kind of like him.
Yeah, like with this kind of game right here, it's one of those games you look at where like when I said the scores earlier for like that Seattle game, I see the same thing here where it's a
Mhm.
low scoring game. It's not much of anything. It's another game. It's another Sunday. Just move past it
Yep.
because the next week at the Bears, like I said to you earlier, like I've said before with the Bears, like when Sophie asked me like, "Oh, you buy into the Bears?" I buy into them because of the defense. I feel like now the Bears are going to be hyped up. I feel like do you remember what the 2019 Cleveland Browns hype was like?
Yeah.
Um, I feel like it's going to be similar. And then look, the Bears are going to be given opportunity after opportunity. They have that game week 2 against the Houston Texans. That I think we're going to find out a lot quickly what the Chicago Bears team is. They have
Yeah.
Sunday Night Football against a really good team in Houston. We'll wait and see. But pertaining to the Patriots, I don't. So obviously, if you look back 2 years, Patriots just got straight up embarrassed and flat out. That was just a game which I could erase my memory bank, but I can't.
It's
Monday
the
Night
game
Football.
that ruined Mac Jones in the terms of the fan base because once
Yeah.
that game happened, it had never been more divided. Where people were like, "Well, fuck Mac," and I'm like, "Well, let's relax."
But I'm going to say this though. I think I can see them winning these 2 games right here at the Titans and at the Bears, just because it's the same thing that unexpected. Like the Patriots are underdogs in all 17 of their games this year, so we'll have to wait and see. But I think they beat the Bears, and then they have a lot of road games. November they're home for 1 game.
Yes, against the Rams, right after the Bears. That game, I think, should be an ass whipping as well. I think the Rams are a better team than
Yeah,
uh, just. I don't know. I feel like they're kind of a team that ever since their Super Bowl run, obviously, people just kind of just don't believe in them in the same way. Everyone kind of feels like they were just kind of around and they don't make any draft picks or the team's not that good. I think they rebuilt that offensive line really well, especially that offensive interior, and that was their biggest issue in 22. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I think the Rams are going to be like pretty good. I'm excited about that.
the Rams are going to be a team that flirt with the playoffs once again, or they'll get in. I'll say so. Aaron Donald's going to be another significant loss as well. Obviously
Sure.
retired this past year. But like I think the same thing too. This is just a game when I look at it, the Rams have too many offensive weapons for the Patriots to really stop because it's going to be like, oh hey, they might slow down Puka Nacua, but oh hey, Kyron Williams is going, or Ben Skoronek's going, or I'm trying to remember other players on their team, but you know what I mean. Like it's
Cooper
just
Cup,
Cooper
Tyler
Cup.
Higby.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like they have too many weapons to where it's just like it's just a game they're going to get outclassed and outmatched. It sucks too because it seems like the Patriots are going to be wearing their retro uniforms.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Which
I don't mind when the Patriots wear the retro uniforms against the team they're going to lose to, because like at least they look good doing it, and that counts for something. That still means something.
I also say this too that if they continue to lose in the red uniforms, that I'm the reason that they're because they're only winning red uniforms is the game that I got to go to against Detroit 2 years
Yep.
ago now. So I get to wear that badge of honor. And then at Miami, I think it's the same thing. It's just for some reason New England and Miami doesn't go well together,
Yep.
Just
Yep.
tough pill to swallow. And then home to the Colts on December 1st. This is the game I'll say this is a win. You know what? Like you said,
I think that's a slam dunk. Absolutely.
yeah.
100% with you there. Yep.
Yep.
Don't believe in the Colts. And then the bye in week 14. That is so late. I don't
Week 9 to
know if it
11 are my ideal
matters.
buys.
What's that?
9 to 11 is where I usually like the buys because I
Yeah.
remember for years with Tom, that's when the buy always was week 9 to
Yep.
11.
Gives you like a nice halfway point there. Not necessarily middle half, but like it gives you a nice like, all right, we've played a good bunch of games. We have a good bunch of games left. The Patriots go on a bye and then play 4 more games to end the year. 14 is so low, and I know for other people for other reasons, the gamblers, they're really upset about the bye because for a lot of people they had they had prop bets on when Drake May would start, and they were like, oh, the bye. I think a week or after the bye. I think week 14 kind of invalidates that prop because I think if you have a rookie quarterback that you're just sitting for a little bit and trying to like get him up to speed and all that, you're not waiting until the end of the season to stick him in. I just don't think there are enough games to where you can, get an accurate look at him for 4 games. So I think that kind of messes up the whole the gambling aspect of it for people who thought like, oh yes, after the bye they'll insert Drake May because week 14 they're not inserting a rookie quarterback in week 15. That just doesn't seem realistic.
The two realistic spots I can see it is either after the Jags game or after the Niners game.
I like after the Jags game a lot. I think that makes a ton of sense because you come back from London, kind of you have your whole season ahead of you, right? Because at that point we're in week 1, 2, 3, 8. Am I doing that right? Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, you're entering week 8. At that point, he's sat for a month and a half. And by that point, you should know whether or not your team is, what your team is. So I think that's a good place to insert him. My hot take, I think it's a very real possibility he starts the Bengals game as well. I know that everyone's kind of just like, oh, he is going to sit. He is going to sit. He is going to sit because everyone feels like he should sit. But I don't think we've gotten any indication from the Patriots themselves that is the case, right? They keep saying the best quarterback will play or the best players will play as a general rule. And I agree with that. And everyone's like, well, why? It's going to, the team's not going to be good. You don't want to ruin him. You don't want to ruin him. And I think that's why I pushed back so much on the Patriots ruined Mac idea, simply because I think that it doesn't allow for the player to be at any fault. So they're like, oh, the Patriots ruined him. Well, maybe he wasn't going to be that good in the first place. And it also has this thing where everyone is now playing scared. Everyone is like afraid. They're like, oh, you can't put him out there. They don't have a left tackle. Or it's not, they don't have enough weapons. They don't have this. They don't have that. It's like, yeah, but most teams don't. Right? Like if we're just talking about like an offensive line and you're like, oh, we can't play the rookie because you don't have a good offensive line. There are like 12 good offensive lines in the 32-team league. Like, let's be real. There are guys playing right now who are going to be playing behind shit offensive lines, and that's just going to be the reality of it because there aren't enough offensive linemen to go around. So miss me with that. I think if he's better than Jacoby Brissett, he will play.
Yeah.
Like that's just how it is. Because I don't understand how you can sell a locker room on the idea of, hey, we need you to go out there and risk your health, your livelihood, your ability, your earning power, your future earning power. But we're not going to even put the best guy out there because he's special and we don't want him to suffer in a bad situation. But you can suffer in a bad situation and we'll be just fine. Like, how do you sell the team on that? Like, hey, Jalen Polk, you're our second round pick and we loved you. We took you at 37. We're going to put you out there, but we're not going to give you the best quarterback on our roster because, the rest of the team isn't so good. Well, what about me? You know what I mean? So I think that it's a real possibility that if he's better, and that's all contingent on him being better. If he is better than Jacoby Brissett, if he is better than Bailey Zapper, and if he is better than who's Joe
Milton.
Milton, he will play. The best player will play, and that's just kind of what everyone kind of has to get used to. So I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that he starts week one. I think if I were a betting man, and I am not, but if I were, I think that after the Jags game makes a ton of sense. But I wouldn't rule out that he starts, week one.
So yeah, that's the thing too. Wherever I feel like this year, everyone's so fixated on this whole thing. It's like, oh hey, the best players are going to play and all this stuff. Like Gerard Mayo said, there is a competition with quarterbacks because if he comes out right now and says, yeah, Drake's our guy, like it's not like the Caleb situation where it's, oh hey, we've known since the end of January. Hey, yeah, they're going to draft Caleb. He's going to be the bear. He's going to be their starter. This, and that. No, it's different with New England. Like they brought in Jacoby Brissett, like we all wanted. Bailey Zappi is that kid that is popular that we don't know why. Obviously, hanging out with all the boys, he's close to the guys, but that's gonna be the one cut where it's like if he does get cut, eh. But we'll have to wait and see if they do carry. Well, it's just because we have to wait and see if they carry 4 quarterbacks or not.
Yeah, I can't see that happening. I personally, well, I'm a little biased because everyone knows that I'm not huge on Bailey Zappi in the first place. I've not been a fan, even prior to him being drafted here and the whole Mac thing. I know someone once accused me like, "Oh, you just don't like Bailey Zappi because of Mac," and I'm like, "No, I just don't like Bailey Zappi because I don't think he's a very good football player." But I think he is absolutely out of there. If nothing else, we keep hearing. And we've heard it a lot, but we keep hearing intimations that maybe he's not the kind of guy you want in the locker room with your rookie quarterback. And we just keep hearing that the Patriots had a toxic locker room, and everyone put it on Matt because he's kind of bitchy with the whole Matt Patricia thing. He was kind of, everyone's like, oh, he's so bitchy. He's like whining and complaining and yelling at the coaches and all that. And he's always kind of had that like petulant attitude, even going back to Alabama. That was something that they said he needed to work on coming out. Which is fine. So it's easy to say, hey, it's on Mac. That's the reason the locker room was so toxic. But I think all of the reports we've gotten have been to the contrary, where they're kind of whispering like, "Hey, Zappy didn't really do too much to kind of fix that situation either, and he was, it takes two to tango, and he was certainly dancing, kind of thing." So I'm like, I think if that is true, and of course it may not be, but we've heard from numerous outlets, especially in our region, and we've heard from numerous outlets that even Mike Reese in his weekly column, and everyone knows Mike Reese is the GOAT. He's the best reporter on the beat, and that's no disrespect to anyone else. He's just that good. Even in his Sunday column that he comes out with every Sunday, that's why it's called the Sunday column. A few weeks back, he mentioned Bailey Zappi, and he openly posited, well, is he someone that you want around with your rookie quarterback? And I think it's one thing if Curran is saying it or Lazar is saying it. It's another thing when Mike Reese is openly saying that, because he's not someone who just speaks.
He's earned his stripes.
Yeah. So when he says it, you're like, what do you know? Because like he doesn't just speak ever. Like he just doesn't do that. He doesn't tweet for engagement. He barely engages in the first place. So it's just like, oh, you said that? Oh, well, then there must be something to it because you wouldn't have said it otherwise. So all that to say, I think there's a real chance that Zappy's not here in the fall. I actually think there's an even realer chance he's not here through the end of through the start of training camp. I think there's a chance that a team decides they need a better second or third option, and they make a trade for Zappy, and that would be fine.
Yeah, like I can easily see that happening too. I just think if Bailey thinks he has a chance, oh hey, I can come in and get this job, when in reality that's not the case, because we all know what the situation is there when you have Drake May, who's your future, you have Jacoby Brissett, who is the bridge, and then you have Joe Milton. You know what? He's the guy that's there. Like
He's
Joe
your
Milton.
project. Yep.
I'm still here for the discourse that when Joe Milton just throws a bomb against Carolina in that preseason game, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, look at him! Like, get him in." And it's just like, yeah, we know what Joe Milton's capable of. He's Jameis Winston 2.0. And then with the rest of this team, it's just like I said to you earlier, it's the fact that there's a plan here, and Bailey Zappi's just kind of like that awkward wrinkle in the plan. It's that like you're here now, but you're not. You're a short term. You're not a long term option, because if Bailey Zappi's there and he's just starting, he's not getting his way. Because like you said, toxicity has to stay at the door. You're not letting it enter. leave it past the weird alternate logo. But you know what? It's as simple as that. And then even to like, because with the rest of the team as well, like I just want to go back to this point where it's like you have everyone locked up. Like I said, now next, because here's the beautiful thing about next offseason. What are your biggest worries? Potentially, I think Ramondre doesn't get signed before training camp. I think at this point, it would be weird if they didn't re-sign Judon before camp. He's just a random like, and even too, hell, locked up David Andrews today, which that seems like that's like a swan song contract where I feel like at 2025 he can reevaluate and go, hey, am I going to play another year? Am I going to walk away?
Yep.
He's in that Jason Kelce realm. And I'm not saying he's comparable to Jason Kelce because Jason Kelce's a one-of-a-kind center. It's just in that same realm of, you know what? He's earned his stripes. He's a Patriot lifer. He'll have a red jacket one day. He's not a gold jacket like Jason is, but, he's earned the respect and love of Patriots fans everywhere. But then circling back to the quarterback question of this all, we'll see Drake. I think the longer Drake sits, it's just worse for him. It does nothing to really enable him. Basically, him sitting is just, it does Drake sitting for more than 6 weeks does no good for anyone, It does no
I
good for
agree.
anyone.
I think there are things he has to work on. I think that people who are concerned about his footwork are perfectly within their right to do that because it can be inconsistent, right?
Yes.
It's gotten weird where people are like, "Oh yeah, this guy's feet are terrible," and I'm like, "They're not. They're just not super consistent from snap to snap." Like you want it to be like, oh, "Okay, cool. Every play we know how it's going to look." Right now, that's not the case, but it's not. It's not like it's not the worst thing we've ever seen. I think there are things he needs to work on as well. But I also go back to something that Bill said a few years ago, where the quote was, the way to get better at football is by playing football. You're not going to get better at football by not playing football. If you're like, hey, we need to see our rookie quarterback. We need to get him out there, get him some live reps. I don't see how sitting him until the end of the year does anything for anyone, right? And I know that for some people, it's the ulterior motive of like, oh, well, we'll get a really good draft pick out of it. And to that I say, sure, man, sure, but I don't watch football because I hope they get a good draft pick. I watch football because I hope they win some games. Like that'll never be my style. I'm never going to be, and especially to be in May thinking about the draft pick, like, oh, hopefully we lose a ton of games in May, so that next March we can end up with something good. I'm like, oh yeah, y'all are better than me. I want to see them win games now.
So here's the thing with the schedule this year. I've always said that since February of last year, I've said, this is probably going to be a 6-7 win team. That's asking them to win 2 to 3 more games than last year. That's not like it's like I don't want to be out here being like, you know what? Oh, even though in our heart of hearts we would love to see them go 13-4. That's just it's not going to happen. It's just one of those things. It's not going to happen. It is what it is. There's other teams in other positions right now. New England's in that like up and comer realm where you see a plan, you see the vision of attack. Like for example, you see Arizona with it. You see Washington to an extent with it, even though I don't know how well that's going to go. But I'd rather have New England be where they are than like where the Chicago Bears are, where it's, hey, they've proven nothing and there's all this crazy expectation because, well, and I'll say this too, for the Bears to be relevant means a lot for the NFL.
Yep.
Like there are certain
it's one
franchises.
of their they're a historic franchise and the game is better when they're good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like in the NHL when an original 6 team is good. It's like in the NBA when it's the Celtics and the Lakers and the Knicks and the Bulls clicking on all cylinders.
Yep.
The Bears being good will do wonderful things for the league. It's like
the
Dallas
same
Cowboys.
thing with the Cowboys and the Raiders and the Pack. Like when those teams are good, and the Packers have been good the entire time, so maybe I should leave them out of it. Too. Yeah, but when your storied franchises are good, it's good for the game.
Yeah, so that's why with the Bears, but I'm not trying to clown the Bears, and I want to have Kyrie back on to talk about this eventually, but I worry for the Bears, not in the same way I worry for the Lions. I worry for the Bears just in the sense of, will they amount to the pressure? Because remember, at the end of the day, it is a rookie quarterback, and Matt Eberflus is not a good head coach, but he has a really good defense. So I feel like this is what can happen with them. Their mistakes will be masked by Caleb's mistakes can be masked by the defense because I'll be honest with you, Jalen Johnson, baller. Montez Sweat, baller.
Yep.
And then even to like, I know everyone talks about their wide receiver core and everything like that, but Cole Kmet's really a player that makes that offense run. Honestly, he's really impressed me this year. I didn't buy into his contract, but you know what? He's earned it.
I think he's just a good player. He's someone
Yeah,
he's another player who's good, and people are going to be like not good enough. And I'm like, no, he's perfectly fine. He's good. He's a good player.
yeah. He's
Maybe
not
not top 10, but he's a good player, and that's totally fine.
because like when you think of the top tight ends in the league, obviously there's the I would say probably Kelsey, Kittle, Hawkinson, even though he's coming off a torn ACL, and then I honestly think Sam Laporta has already entered that conversation.
Yeah, I'd put him ahead of Hawkinson right now. Mostly because of the ACL, but also because he was so good. He was so good as a rookie. And I think it means something when you're that good as a rookie at that position, because tight ends have a terrible track record as far as transitioning from from college to the pro game. We just see guys that everyone's like, oh, it's gonna be so good. Think about some of the best tight ends we've had, best rookie tight end seasons we've had. And you're thinking about guys who like ended up with like 600 yards and like 5 touchdowns. Like Noah Fant had a huge rookie year, and I think he capped out at like 700. Like it wasn't monstrous. It was just pretty good because tight ends have a tough transition.
I always said though that them like I always said this though, that him being a part of that Russell Wilson trade, I'm like, that's gonna hurt the Broncos more than people think. I said that
Yep.
in March of 2022.
Yep.
And when your wide receiver is named Albert, I don't know what your last name is.
Oakland Women.
Uh yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are you doing? Um, but going back, like, look, you know what? It could be worse. New England could be a mediocre team with a really bad uniform to commemorate such a fantastic season.
Oh, I thought we were going somewhere else. But yes,
No,
that Giants uniform is hideous. I thought you were going to say that the Patriots could be a team that is kind of going nowhere, and everyone seems to think they could be going somewhere, even
oh,
though
that
we
was
all
last year.
secretly
That was
knows.
last year.
This year, that version is the Steelers. I think the Steelers are going absolutely nowhere. They're kind of spinning their wheels. I don't think that team is very good. I don't think they're going to be very good, and they just keep winning about 9 games a year. And I don't know, man. I don't buy the Steelers.
I don't just don't buy into them, but they're gonna always mess around and find a way to win
Sure,
games.
sure, but is that better than actually doing something? Like, so
Oh,
my
good
thing,
lord, no. Good
that's
lord,
that's where
no.
I'm at with Pittsburgh. Is I love Mike Tomlin. I think he's a great coach. I think he's probably one of the best, the 5 best coaches in the league right now. I kind of want to see him just like do the thing that everyone's trying to avoid having him do, which is like actually rebuild. So they're just like kind of retooling on the fly every couple of years. There's like, oh, we're just gonna like add some new receivers, and we'll see how it shakes out on the defense. And I'm like, yeah, but like you have no quarterback. Russell
No.
Wilson stinks. Justin Fields stinks.
You
Like,
might be returning kicks.
holy cow! I love that report. I hope it's true. That would be kind of sick. That would be kind of saucy. But like, that team, and they're gonna win 9 games this year. They're just gonna win 9 games and just be in it. And is that better? They end up picking what, 15th, 16th, 17th. Is that better than like making a bold move? And I don't necessarily mean taking, because like I said earlier, I don't buy that. But what I mean is like, do you just say fuck it and like, hey, we're just gonna like package some plays together and go out and make a move to actually acquire a guy? I just don't think that Russell Wilson is moving the needle. That just doesn't move me. And when you're like, hey, our quarterbacks are Justin Fields and Russell Wilson in 2024, I'm going to look at you like, why? Do better.
You know what? It's just one of those things where they are right now. You said earlier you think the Colts are a fluky team.
Yeah.
They are right now what the 2021 Colts were. Where it's like, we got Carson Wentz. Everyone's basically gonna prey on their just overall success. And also, I said this to Sophie last week too, with just where the Patriots are picking the draft. If they are back to picking between 10 and 16, I'll be happy. I
Yep.
think that's a sweet spot for them to pick, because the player that I like for next year's draft for them is going to probably be available in that position unless he creeps up. That's Colson Loveland out of Michigan, the tight end.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with him, but it's still too early for me to have
Tight
gotten
end,
in
Big
on
Ten,
that.
cool name. So I'm sold.
That's all it takes. Yeah, I think picking 10 to 16 is perfectly fine. People will say, oh, that's like purgatory. You don't want to be picking in the middle there. I think if you have
When
your
you're needing
quarterback,
a
that's
quarterback,
just fine. Exactly. And that's why I think the Steelers are in a weird spot, because they don't have a quarterback. And I think that's going to be about where they're going to be picking 16th or 17th. You got to figure something out there.
there's two teams right now that are both in the NFC South. There's 3 teams, because there's one team that I'm going to say this right now that the Carolina Panthers don't have any primetime games this year. They have the one standalone game, which NFL going to Germany. Are we punishing them for World War II? Because last year was Colts Patriots. This year's Panthers Giants. Like, I know the Germans have a bad past, but like, you don't need to punish. That's like, you don't have to punish them with that. Give them good football. Like, Brazil's getting the Packers and the Eagles.
Mhm.
But so with the NFC South, New Orleans is in that similar position right now where it's
Holy
like,
cow! Yeah, yep. Agree.
like they're good enough. I like them drafting Fuaga, but still, I'm just like Derek Carr is gonna be like, and also too like they say they're close, and then they're gonna be like 4-7 halfway through the year, and Dennis Allen's gonna be like, you know what, we're just like if we're like right there, and then they're gonna end up going like 9-8 and miss the playoffs. I think the Buccaneers take a step back this year. Honestly, I think like
Absolutely. I think I think that's an easy money bet. I think they
Mike Evans still a 1,000 yard receiver though.
oh, most certainly. That's just what he does. You can bet on that as much as you can bet on the Steelers winning 9 games. I think the Bucks are a team that won some games that like ordinarily they wouldn't win. You know those coin flip kind of games where
Oh yeah,
yeah, at the end of the year everyone's like, oh well, if we had just won all of our single, our single possession matchups, we would have been 9 and whatever instead of 4 and whatever. And it's like, yeah, but like that will flip back. So with a team like that Tampa, where they won some games that you're like, I don't know how they did that. They did it. I think the fortune kind of flips. They remind me of the Raiders from what year was that? 2016 when Derek Carr had like that MVP season.
his leg went
And
hurt.
yeah, and then it's broke. It's broke. I just that was a
On
team that
Christmas Eve.
I just didn't buy it. I was like, I don't know, man. I remember the overtime win against Tampa that year, and I was just like, man, that could have gone so differently if the interception was caught or if we didn't miss 2 tackles on the breakaway run. It's just things like that go well one year. They won't go well 2 years in a row. It's just not how variance works. I think Tampa is primed for a step back. I think Baker will still like look pretty good. I don't think that they're going to regret that contract they gave him.
No,
I don't know that their team is actually as good as their record was last year.
that's exactly. And I even pulled up their schedule. So they start with Commanders, Lions, Broncos, but then they have a stretch before their bye week that goes Eagles, Falcons, Saints, Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, Niners, bye.
That is hideous. That
No,
is
that's what kills the season.
hideous. That is yeah. That is holy cow. That's tough. Yeah.
Like, and also too, Chiefs is primetime Monday Night Football. Ravens primetime Monday Night Football. Falcons Thursday Night Football. So
Boy, that's tough. I mean, Falcons. Obviously, that's going to be a division game that can be. Division games are weird, so maybe you see something there. But that is a brutal stretch. That is tough.
that it's like I said, it's those are the ones that can truly, truly, truly kill your season. I'm also just trying to pull up Sunday Night Football right now because I'm just genuinely trying to remember. Oh, I also found this out too from NBC Sports that with Thanksgiving, the Patriots are when it comes to most frequent matchups, they are third as they played the Lions 3 times on Thanksgiving. Believe it or not, they're the top ranked AFC team for that stat
I didn't know that.
from 1998 to 2023. The most is obviously the Lions versus the Packers at 7. Here's Sunday Night Football. Just because I was curious. Obviously, they have 3 games week 1 with Ravens Chiefs, the Brazil game, Lions Rams. Who decided to put Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes week 3? Who in the league office said that's a good idea?
I understand the vision, right? The Falcons could be frisky, and the Chiefs will be frisky. So you're
With
like,
Michael
oh,
Penix Jr. though?
this is going to be fun. I just think, oh boy, I think week 3 isn't the week you want to do that matchup because an Achilles is an Achilles, and that is a 38-year-old man in Kirk Cousins playing. So maybe he's not all the way back, and then we get robbed of a matchup that could be pretty good. I think that's too early to. It's too early for that.
Bengals and Giants week 6 as well.
Yeah, what's up with that? I don't really understand. What's the storyline there that got them that primetime matchup? I know you wanted to put the Bengals. You probably want to put the Bengals in primetime anyway because they're the Bengals. They're probably going to be pretty good. But the Giants, like, is there like a revenge game angle I'm missing? Is there like there's like, oh, we really need to see Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones. Like we need that matchup.
I don't know. And then the Steelers have two hosting they host the Cowboys week 5, and then they host the Jets week 7.
Cowboys game is going to be pretty fun. The Jets game, I can see it being terrible, but we'll see.
Yeah. And then, here's another fun one. Week 9, Jacksonville versus Philadelphia.
I think Jacksonville gets embarrassed. I think that's ripe for embarrassment.
Oh, here's so I found two good games of storylines. Week 8, San Francisco Dallas, just because obviously it's a classic rivalry.
Classic, yeah, absolutely.
And then week 10, Houston versus Detroit. Who would have thought 3 years ago that would be a Sunday night football game?
Mind you, that game is gonna own, and I am so hyped for that. I'm like, that's just gonna be good football.
That's the one where you can just sit back and relax and watch.
Oh yeah, as long as you're not a fan of either team, you're just gonna be having a good time regardless of what happens.
Exactly. Week 13 too, San Francisco and Buffalo.
Yep, that'll be fun. I do wonder though if at that point in the calendar, if Buffalo is who I think Buffalo might end up being, do they get flexed out of that? I think Buffalo is going to take a step back. And given their record last year,
Gabe Davis is to replace Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis.
They got the Gabest of all Davises and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Yeah, that's
Coleman and Matt Collins. And
now Khalil Shakir, he's a baller. He's going to be really good, and I'm really sad about that. But yeah, I don't know. I think they're going to take a step back. I think they're going to have some growing pains in that on that defensive side, because I know that they cut all their corners and their safeties, and everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter. They weren't that good anyway. And I understand that because they were older. But at the same time, I think when you're starting over in an entire position group, there are going to be some growing pains, and it's not going to look great. You have Rasul Douglas just kind of leading that room. Christian Benford's obviously a good corner there. But I think there are going to be some growing pains, and I think if their record isn't what their record should be at that time, in week 13, I think there's a chance that game gets flexed.
Yeah, I think so too. I flipped the Monday Night Football too because I'm like looking around, like week 2, Falcons and Eagles. I'm like, that's set up for.
Yeah. I don't love that. Then again, I think Monday Night Football always gets garbage matchups. Like there are like 4 a year that I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Everything else, I'm like, why are we watching this?
Like Steelers and Giants week.
Why are we watching this?
Let's see another. Here's another one, spicy one. Week 13, Browns at Broncos.
Yeah, that's really what we needed. Deshaun Watson and trading interceptions with Zach Wilson. Woo.
The best one here is week 17, Lions and 49ers. And then week 10, Miami at LA. That could be another spicy one as well. But that sucks for Miami having to travel to California on a short week. And even here, week 3, who decided to put Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow on ABC exclusive window, or Tennessee at Miami the following week?
Okay, but there's a storyline there with both quarterbacks being from LSU. Maybe that's what they were thinking. That's like they're like, oh nah, the battle of the LSU quarterbacks.
Or in an ESPN Plus exclusive, Chargers at Cardinals.
Chargers at Cardinals. Who needed that? Not me, because I don't think either of those teams are going to be pretty good.
No. Cardinals are that weird team to me where I feel like Jonathan Gannon's bought in, but they're going to have a lot of losses where it's like week 1, they played Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like week 1, they're going to lose a close one, and everyone's going to be like, oh, hey, Cardinals are going to be frisky. And then they lay an egg week 2.
Yeah, that's they've been doing for the last 40 years. Yeah, the Cardinals are a team that I find to be like aggressively boring. So they're going to have to show me. And I already talked about how I feel about the Chargers. So that's going to be a game where, I don't know, we're going to overreact to whatever happens anyway, but neither of those teams moves me.
That's just it. It's just like neither move the needle. Neither get you excited. Because
no one's like leaving work on Monday like, oh man, I can't wait to watch the Cardinals and the Chargers. Like no one's saying that, man. We'll watch it because it's on, but I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, like they literally play the Bills, the Rams, let's see where else the Lions and where are you little bird? The Commanders and then the 49ers all in their first 5 weeks of the year. So it's
that's tough. That's tough.
It's just tough. It's tough. But all in all though, like with schedule release, it's one of those things that it's it's fun just because it's like, like it's no other league does it. Like baseball releases their schedule like year out. Hockey and basketball both. It's just like, hey, here it is. It's just the calendar. Boom.
Yep. And they already have so many games that like it's not like everyone's like, oh man, I can't wait to break down all 82 games on the schedule for the Celtics.
Yeah.
Like no one's doing that.
Yeah. Can we talk about Caleb Williams for a quick second? Or actually,
Sure.
how everyone thought Caleb Williams was going to be this diva quarterback?
Yeah.
What if I told you that there's another player in college football right now on a not so very good team who's probably going to become that diva quarterback?
Shadir Sanders.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. He has a lot to say about a lot.
For a 4-8 team.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. Because the talk around Colorado has been like, oh, what a massive turnaround it has been. But I'm like, you won one game in your conference. You won 4 games overall. The team's still really not all that good. Now, granted,
Congratulations.
They had only won 1 game the year prior, so it is a huge turnaround. 3 wins. I mean, they won 4 times as many games. I hear you, but let's kind of slow down. I think he's going to be a good player. I think he is a good player. I think he's going to be a good prospect. I think he's going to go high in the draft. I think there's going to be a lot of nonsense surrounding him to come out of that, right? I think his dad is going to have a lot of say in where he ends up drafted. And people are saying like, oh no, that's not going to happen. That's not the kind of guy. I'm like, it's going to happen. I think if anything, the player I'm more excited about coming out of Colorado is it's Hunter. So yeah.
I just said it just because like I saw all this stuff about like, oh, like, because I feel like if it seems like it's a toxic place to play, just in the sense of if you're not on Shador or Dion's good side, like they're going to run you out to the transfer portal,
Yeah.
That's what it seems like. And
that's how they want it to seem like, because it's not like they're doing anything to stop people from thinking that.
Also, July 19th, I don't own a PS5. I can't afford a PS5 right now, but will I probably buy a PS5 sometime in the next couple months in order to play the video game? Absolutely. So EA Sports, don't let us down.
Oh, they will, but we'll buy it anyway because we have no other options.
Yeah. I just love all the memes where it's like when I lose my 5-star recruit to the SEC again and I'm at Toledo and like when first play of the game, my offensive line doesn't block well for me. And it's like, oh, here you go. It's just, it's gonna be great content. I just love all the people saying like PTO, and I'm like, I would never. I took time off work, like when you take time off school to play a video game. Yeah. I can't see taking time off work. Like it's gonna be there.
You're right. Like at the end of the day, it will be, and I'll just stay up a little later because that's the kind of person I am. I'm like, oh well, I get out of work at 6, and man, I really want to play this game. Oh fuck it, I'll just play till about 1:30 and then regret it in the morning. But that's tomorrow's problem.
Exactly. It's like the same thing too with primetime football. Which I'm going to say this right now. I know we say, why is this game on, like Chargers Cardinals on Monday Night Football coming up in October? But I saw a video recently of Steelers Titans highlights and someone saying, I can really go for one of these right now. And I literally want to be like, this is why you do not take NFL football for granted, because when it's gone, you are going to
It's gone. Yep, absolutely. And there's no substitute. I mean, obviously I love the UFL and spring football in general, but it's not the same as the as the NFL, and it won't be the same as the NFL, and that's perfectly okay. We just gotta, take our lumps. But all that said, I'm still gonna complain about some of these matchups because my goodness.
I feel like and also I'm gonna say this right now, so I know everyone was kind of up in arms with the Patriots. Oh, only one primetime game, and how it's like, oh, Carolina 0 primetime games. I think for whoever gets the first overall pick for the draft, that should be your punishment for the next season.
No primetime games. I completely agree. I completely agree.
Oh, you won. I think you should. Oh, you won 2-15. Oh, yeah. No, you're not on prime time. You're buried at the 1 o'clock window.
Sure, play all your games at 1 o'clock.
You're buried in the regional window. You have to do this, this, and this. Because you know why? Because eventually we'll be watching all our football on Netflix. Which, look, the cable, all those streaming services coming together, saying like, we're going to create this like one streaming service, and everyone's like, you mean cable?
Yeah. It's actually kind of gotten out of hand, and I'm like, I want to complain about it, but at the same time, I'm just not gonna pay for it anyway. So like, it's fine. Like I could complain like, oh, they're doing too much, but in truth, I'm not paying for it anyhow.
Yeah, like with me up here in Canada, it's a little bit different because all we have a streaming service called DAZN, DAZN. And on that service, we basically get Red Zone, and I get every NFL game at my fingertips for $20 a month.
See,
So
easy.
that's why it's easy. So when I see like the best is the memes of like the Peacock exclusive games, like hell the Netflix ones, which I just love because you watched Steelers versus Chiefs. You want to watch OJ versus America. Um, you should watch this. You should watch quarterback. You should watch this show. Um, like I don't have a problem with the streaming. It's because it is the future of the future just of everything in general. But
Sure.
at the same time, too, look, it's whenever I see all these problems, I'm like, these are American problems. And as a Canadian, I'm not totally mad about it. And like how you have your spring football, I also have my summer football, which
Yep.
look, they're in training camp right now in the CFL. And will be starting up very, very soon. But you know what? Before we know it, it's all going to be here. So like everything's talk. Everything's just a matter of okay, like once we get past mini, now where it's I feel like it's like increments the off season, how it's like layers where it's like okay, free agency, the draft, like free agency, and then the draft, and then schedule release has like its 2 to 3 day window. Everyone like
Hmm.
overreacts to a game that's 6 months from now,
Yep.
and then mini camp comes along where it's like, oh look at this, and then you're probably gonna have an unfortunate injury. Just I'm not wishing it on anyone. It's the nature of the beast, and
Yep.
things always happen.
Absolutely.
And then there's that window where if you're in the news, you either got a contract extension or you're caught with drugs or weapons or you're drunk driving.
Or you're giving
And
a
then
really bad commencement speech.
oh good lord, I'm
Yeah.
I have a take about that. Imagine if like Steven Goskowski did that in like the heyday of the Patriots dynasty.
Oh yeah,
Everyone
they'd absolutely fry him. Yep.
Yeah, like I feel like Harrison Butker's being fried, but it's funny to think about with the Kansas City Chiefs, where it's like, okay, you have Mahomes, Kelsey, and Jones, but you have a convicted rapist as your punter, you have a misogynistic kicker, and you have a wide receiver who the thug life chose him. I didn't choose the thug life. Like,
Holy shit! And I just can't believe that it happened so quickly, Rasheed Rice, because it's like that was one of the knocks on him coming out. They were like, oh, character concerns, and a
well,
lot of times you hear character concerns and it never pans out. You're like, oh, they were like, oh, this guy's character concerns and nothing ever happens. With him, he's just like, oh yeah, I'm really about that. I will assault people in the strip club. I will be drag racing and I'll have guns in the car. And I'm like,
I will
dude, what the hell? You just won the Super Bowl.
actually, yeah, he wasn't on a rookie on their team. Um, Yeah, because like I just like I feel like with Kansas City, it's that Gordon Ramsay meme where it's like him consoling the kid, where it's like, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's
Yeah.
okay." And when it
And
comes to the
everyone else is like,
Patriots,
you fucking donkey.
yeah, it's literally anyone else like that. Like I feel like too with Kansas City, I think this like I know it seems silly to pick against them, but I feel like with them in the Super Bowl, they'll win it the year that you don't expect them to.
Yeah.
They're gonna win now, but then now, like, I love how everyone's like coming out and saying like, "Oh, they're playing on every day of the week. Like, this isn't fair." And I'm like I was telling you earlier, when you're the kings of the castle, guess what? You're gonna be the most in demand team. You're gonna be playing at
Hmm.
4. I think I looked at their schedule. They have, I think, 3 or 4 1 o'clock games out of 17 the entire year because they're either playing at 4 o'clock or 8:15. And for Buffalo fans who love 1 o'clock games, you're welcome for the last 2 to 3 weeks of the season because they're playing at 1 o'clock.
Well, or unless things get kind of frisky and the Patriots have to, you know what I mean? And I almost wonder if it's a possibility that the Patriots, since that game is TBD, I wonder if it's almost possible that the Patriots play Buffalo in the national window, that 4 o'clock slot. If
Ooh.
I don't think the Patriots will be contending for anything, but I wonder if it comes down to Buffalo needing a win to get in. I wonder if the Patriots get flexed into a pretty good spot because of that.
Or they have to play like the Saturday at 4:30, and then the Sunday we just kind of like put our feet up and just go, yep, watch the red zone.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, and then like with Kansas City, I'm not trying to discredit them or anything. It's just I feel like everyone's going to be all year like, oh, they three-peat? We'll be the first team to three-peat. And I remember when the Patriots did it, like 2006. Like, look, I see a world where they run into a brick wall in the playoffs where it's like that, or you know what, we snap our fingers and this time next year, hey, Mahomes has 4 rings in his first 7 years in the league. So it's all wait and see.
Yep. And
Yeah.
a lot of football to be played. We can't just assume that we know things just because we know the schedule, but people will continue to do that because those cable TV shows need to air. They're still on the schedule and they need content to air with. So We're going to pretend we all know in May exactly what it's going to look like in September, October, November, December, and then January. And we're just going to be like, hey, these are the facts. This is exactly what's going to happen. And some poor team whose fan base right now feels really good about themselves is going to be like, well, just wait till next year, like every year.
Because here's the thing too, for like, and before we wrap up, I want to touch back on the whole topic of like the Patriots and everything like that, because I've seen people online where it's like schedule comes out, it's like 2-6 to the first 8, where I'm like, hey, that might happen, but at the same time too, it's like this isn't a team where everyone's saying like, I haven't seen a single Patriot person go playoffs. I haven't seen like how everyone's saying like, oh, they're going to be terrible. I'm like, what right now makes you think that this team's going to be worse than last year? If they are, shit went wrong for a reason. But my like cautiously optimistic self is the whole why not us mentality. But at the same time, too, I know that say if they were to go on a goofy run and make the playoffs this year, I'd rather have them not do that, because the next year it sets up crazy expectation to where that next year you can be that like, sneaking in the grass to where it's just like you could rise up and be this, oh, hey, here are the Patriots. Like, holy crap, we did not see them coming. Because like, think about like, this is why I was so skeptical with the Lions last year, just because like, there was all these crazy expectation. Like, I'd rather see that in 2026, not in 2024.
I agree. Also, I think that's where the Patriots last time got messed up. They went on a magic carpet ride in 2021 with Mac, took them to the playoffs in the as a rookie.
They faced some bad teams, though.
They most certainly did. And as a result, everyone's like, oh, in 2022 they're going to be really good. And in truth, they weren't that good in 21, and that showed in 22, and again, and showed in 23. So I think it'll, everyone wants a fast rebuild. I don't know that is necessarily going to happen, and nor that it should happen. I think there are still some positions that need addressing that cannot be addressed this year, right? Like they're not going to fix the wide receiver room. Like they've added 2 players to that room. They've added KJ Osborne, but they've done pretty much all they can do. Quote unquote wide receiver 1 isn't going to fall into your lap in August. So everyone kind of needs to kind of temper their expectations. It's going to take a little time. That O-line isn't going to be rebuilt in a day. And low key, that D-line is going to need a little bit of love as well. Just because they're getting a little older on the interior, outside of Barmore, obviously. You have Gotcha over there. Daniel Quale still under contract. I don't know that they necessarily have a bona fide pass rush right now, and that's something that needs to be addressed. You obviously re-signed Josh Uche, but I wasn't really impressed with him last year. Matt Judon is going to be 32. There are positions that need addressing, and I think fast tracking a rebuild, because you got into the playoffs on a fluky kind of year, would be the worst way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know, like, everyone's saying, like, the whole contract's about, like, the schedule. Like, the Patriots got dealt a bad hand with the schedule, which they did. There's a lot of unnecessary travel involved. But I will say this: I do like the fact that Arizona's coming off the bye. I will say that. I like the fact too that they go. And also, here's the other thing: weather. There's no like, it's not like, oh, they're going to Miami at the beginning of September. They're going to Miami at the end of November, which it still will be warm, but it's not going to be like melt your face off hot, where they can outrun you in the track meet and use the heat to their advantage. But before we go, we did this a couple of years ago. I remember one of the first ever podcasts we did where we were basically talking about Patriot hot takes, and I think I have one that I was cooking in the oven for a little bit. I think I'm ready to come forth with.
Let's hear it.
I think Christian Gonzalez could be nominated for DPOY at the end of the season.
He's really good, isn't he? Yeah. He's so good.
Number 0 too.
Yeah, I don't love the number 0, but I will make an exception for Gonzalez because I think he's awesome. My hot take is that Marte Mapu is going to be one of the best players on the defense.
In number 15?
In number 15, which I'm a little conflicted on because he's a linebacker, and linebackers shouldn't wear numbers in the teams, but he's also a safety, and they should wear numbers in the teams. So,
yeah, that's the one with Gonzo work, because I'm like looking at all their receiver matchups, like even why I think they could beat the Bengals, like. He can block maybe future Patriot T. Higgins, or he can block Jamar Chase. Week 2, DK Metcalf. Week 3, put him on Garrett Wilson. Week 4, who they play week 4? I'm really like losing track of
San
who
Francisco.
they play. San Francisco. See, that's the one where they lose, because it's like that's the one where it's just like, okay, hold your breath.
Yeah, we're on to Miami. We're on to Miami.
When Nick Bosa pile drives Drake May into the Levi Stadium field, just you know what. Take it with
He's
a
gonna
grain
get
of salt.
planted.
Yeah. It's just gonna be like that meme where it's got like like the grass sticking out the side of the head. It's just like I don't know if you remember the Simpsons episode with football where Bart's laying on the ground in the mud. He's just like, ah, crap, and it's like 30-0 at the end of the game. It's like that's what's gonna happen week 4. Like we all know it.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be I'm pretty comfortable that's gonna be an ass whipping.
Use your illegal substances to get you illegal in some states or provinces and countries to get you through that game. That's what.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you fire that up. That game is at 4 o'clock because it's on the West Coast. But you go ahead and you start early on that one, early and often. Yeah, reapply as needed.
I got a good one that rhymes. 3 p.m. Hit the pen.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's gonna be one of those games.
We keep trucking here on YWC Football Talk, folks. This has been episode number 294, but don't go anywhere, guys, because with CFL season, we're going to be full steam ahead. Plus, you guys, I got some stuff I'm working on for Patriots content that you're not going to want to miss. So thank you for joining us. For McGarvin, I'm Griff. Don't overreact.